Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a chum of modest means, with preem lessons that'll flatline you. I've been around since '86. I've seen a century end, and another straight away. I felt all the promises change, while the sales pitch stayed the same. I'm pleased to meet you. I hope you can guess my generation. What may be puzzling you is the nature of this game. I've watched stability become uncertainty. I've watched certainty become a product. I've watched a generation learn that following a path doesn't matter much when somebody keeps moving the landing pad. So before we begin, have some curiosity, open your mind, and most importantly, chum, pay attention. The suits who rule the rules rarely suffer the consequences. Maybe you can change that.
I'd rather fall into my grave, gun in hand and on fire, and not drag anyone down with me.
Huh. You just discovered what it takes to become a legend. Grab your iron. Let's mobilize.
Congrats, Chumbas. You survived the final exams. You wore the cap and gown, and picked up a few graduation gifts. Now, I shatter this brain dance. You're about to walk into a corporate meat grinder. I mean, the labor market. You were pitched a preem opportunity. Get the degree, get the certification, get the internship. Get your foot through the door and succeed. They handed you a brick of debt. Here comes the K-shaped economy run by a CEO gone for brains, and job postings demanding 3 years of experience for an entry-level paycheck that barely covers a few square feet. They told you education was the key. They just never told you which door it unlocked. Here's the cyberpunk truth. K through 12 and college trained you for a world that doesn't exist. Out in the field, you'll notice that chaos is the curriculum. Now, don't get it twisted, chum. Education does matter. Just understand the most valuable version. It's something you'll build yourself. Adaptation, failure, observation, course correction. You'll need to learn faster than the system can break you. You'll realize that a lot of those claimed paths were funded, filtered, and sold to you. I don't want to fearmonger. I'm here as your handsome fixer that's giving you the deets on your first mission briefing. The system doesn't play fair, and you'll need to know the different loadouts to survive the chaos. From the corporate office to the city streets, naivety gets exploited. Awareness gets you through the door. What you do next, that's where your real education begins. Before you step into the system, you need to understand the version of it you were trained on. The advice you grew up hearing, it wasn't fake. It was just outdated. You were told, work hard, get your degree, find stability. And at one point, that path actually worked. Here's what changed. The economy evolved. Technology accelerated. Competition scaled globally. The system updated without notifying your teachers on how to navigate it. Shard data from Pew Research Center shows skepticism that a college degree guarantees success. What was once a foot through the door is just a formality and a resume filter. Most chums don't realize the shift until they're already inside it. So no, you weren't set up to fail. You were trained with legacy code for a system running a different version with no patch notes. Once you understand that, then you can rise up and stop blaming yourself and start adapting to reality. Now let's talk about the system you're actually walking into, because this isn't the same job market you were trained for. Today's entry-level roles often require experience you were never given the chance to earn. 3 to 5 years for something labeled entry-level. That's an ongoing pattern. Job listings evolve faster than the guidance built to interpret them. AI filters your resume before a human sees it. Culture fit replaces measurable skill. Then comes those NOVA unpaid assignments that replace real evaluation. So the definition of qualified has been changed repeatedly. What used to be an on-ramp is now a filter. So if you've been feeling underqualified, you're not. You're entering a system that moved the goalpost while you were still being trained on legacy loadouts that were never patched. So if the system changed and the job market rewrote the rules, then the next question is simple. What exactly were you trained not to see? Most people don't fail from lack of intelligence. They fail from missing modules, the absent guidance, the glitchy software, the questionable hardware, things like how to navigate rejection loops without internalizing them, how to read job listings that are designed to filter, not inform you on the compensation deeds, how to negotiate in a place where entry level is mid-level complication. The most important task, adapting to instructions that never worked. The National Association of Colleges and Employers warned of the gap between academic preparation and real-world workplace readiness, especially in basic skills such as communication, adaptability, and problem-solving. Not because students aren't capable, mainly because the system had no way in teaching instability in a sterile and predictable classroom. You're not dealing with ignorance. It's a byproduct of an untrained survival logic. Once you notice that, you stop asking, why didn't I learn this? Instead you ask, how fast can I learn it now? Now here's where most people misread the system. They think the solution is finding the right job. Here's the reality, chooms. The structure itself stopped being stable, which means survival has no perfect lane. More so about building multiple ones. We're seeing a massive shift toward hybrid income structures, freelance work, gig platforms, contract roles, and side skills. Not as side hustles, instead as a primary survival method. Upwork reports millions of workers transitioning into independent or hybrid work models faster than traditional employment growth. The U.S. Census Bureau data confirms something similar. People hold multiple income sources to stabilize basic needs. There is no glory in this hustle culture. This system does not reward loyalty consistently. Flexibility becomes the real currency. So, instead of asking, what job will take care of me? The question becomes, what combination of skills keeps me stable? Otherwise, chooms become gonks like Jackie Wells, committing a heist with their best friend Vincent or Valerie.
You walk in Night City, the city of dreams.
Now here's the part nobody prepares you for. The system tests more than your skills. It'll test your identity. Rejection isn't occasional anymore. Burnout isn't rare. Those become part of your identity. It's imposter syndrome in the Cyberpunk XBD. If you're not careful, you start to internalize it. You start thinking, I'm behind. I'm not enough. I should be further by now. Research from the American Psychological Association shows rising burnout, anxiety, and disengagement among younger workers entering unstable career environments. Not because they're weak or that they're failures, it's really because they're overexposed to the stress without protection. That's the real danger that goes unnoticed. The identity drift, when you start becoming what the system treats you like. So, mental armor isn't optional, it's necessary. When you lose yourself to the process, no job, no paycheck, and no title is going to rebuild that for you. So, that's why the most important skill in this entire system is knowing who you are when the system stops validating you. Once you understand that, then you stop waiting for the system to define you. Now, you've seen the loadouts. Expectation management, job market reality, skill gaps, survival strategy, mental armor. If it feels like the world looks a little different, that's not an accident. That's pattern recognition kicking in. Nothing I've shown you here is hidden. It's just normalized. A system doesn't need to be a secret to be effective. It just needs to be accepted. Most people don't realize they're not walking into a broken system. They're walking into a working one that was never designed with them at the center. Graduation always feels like an ending. However, it's really the moment you realize you've been handed a map for a different version of the same maze. So, here you are in the empty space outside the tutorial. No pop-ups, no guidance, no guaranteed path, just decisions and consequences. So I won't tell you to be optimistic, and I won't give you any legacy code. What I will tell you is this. Once you understand how the system assigns value, how it filters attention, how it turns uncertainty into pressure, you stop confusing motion with progress. Maybe that's the real shift. It was never about escaping the system, but instead how you'll recognize it and leverage it the best you can. Failure is not the danger. It's mixing up confusion for personal shortcomings. So, as you move forward, don't ask if you're qualified, ask if the qualifications were stable. Remember this path ahead. You were never just a player in the game. You were also part of the learning process. So please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a chum born analog, but raised digital. I never held a general's rank, but I've been edge running since 2008. So I'm pleased to meet you. I hope you guess my generation. I understand what bothers you in the nature of this game. I've heard lies become the truth. I've watched the corporate suits become saints. So, if you happen to meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and have some taste.